Welcome to Miller Garage. So if this is your first time watching, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel. We primarily do Airstream related stuff here, but we have some other projects and some more things in the future that are going to be kind of beyond just Airstreams. So we are into the second week of doing this full time. This being my main job, and it has been amazing. There's obviously some nerves and a little bit of nervousness about just taking this jump, but it has been incredible. So I just want to take a brief moment to talk to you guys about one of our amazing sponsors. This is where I get all of my sheet metal, rivets, drill bits, all that stuff. It is airpartsinc.com. They're linked below, and they have a whole section that's dedicated to Airstream sheet metal stuff. They do a lot of aircraft stuff as well, but they are specifically targeting and tailoring Airstreams, and so they have the exterior aluminum, the all-clad, they have the interior skins, they have the belly pan, pretty much everything that you need, as well as really cool stuff like I love this. This is a rivet spacing tool. So you can basically evenly space rivets whenever you're doing a panel or anything really that you need multiple rivets along, and you can set it to whatever spacing you want and it'll be perfect, which I'm a big fan of. I don't like, rivets being, whenever they're not either perfectly lined up or there's different spacing between them. I can't do that. So I try to always have all of my rivet lines be, perfectly straight and everything. They got Clecos, drill bits. These are the number 30 drill bits for your 1/8 inch rivets. So go check them out. I love their stuff. They have great customer service and they're awesome people. So airpartsinc.com, which is linked below. So I've been super busy on this first week. We've been working on, I got 3 primary projects that I'm cranking away on. One is I'm polishing and doing a bunch of other stuff to a 1977 Airstream. That should be finished up here in the next week to 2 weeks. I still have to put the awnings on it and then do the ceramic coating on the exterior and coat the roof as well with the bus coat. And then we have the 1966 project that's a much bigger project. I've been working on the skylights, which I got a video of that coming soon, as well as I've begun sanding on it, which is kind of something I'm going to show you guys today. And then I also have another 1966 that's a shorter one. I think it's like a 24 foot that we're putting a subfloor in. And I've been working on that to hopefully get that thing done over the next few weeks as well. So on our 1966 project, we're going to be doing a full exterior polish. But before I can get to the polishing, I actually need to sand the trailer. It had really bad corrosion on a lot of spots, as well as just some scratches, and there's a few spots where it had been strapped down to the trailer when it was brought over, and that rubbed the aluminum pretty bad. So I just basically need to go in and sand it to get that just kind of that top layer of stuff off and get a little bit better condition to start with. You got to be careful with the sanding. You don't want to go, obviously too crazy, or certainly not with too aggressive of a grit, because you can definitely damage your panels. So this is something more if you're more advanced and want to take on that kind of a project. So I'm kind of refining my process with sanding. I started off using like a Hutchins Pro Finisher air sander, and to be honest, I wasn't in love with the results. I think part of the problem was it was a finishing sander, and so it didn't have really, like, I guess the strength or something, but it was creating a lot of swirl marks. Like it would essentially get caught and create little swirls that were deeper grooves, and I think part of it was also that the aluminum was getting stuck in the pad. So now I'm actually using just an orbital palm sander, and I got this one from Harbor Freight. It's their slightly nicer one, but I have it hooked up to a shop vac, and I think that's actually helping a lot, is to remove the dust that is coming off so it's not building up in the pad. So I'm starting off at about 220 grit, and that's in the parts that are definitely worse, and then I'm going up to a 400 grit, and then I'm going to be finishing it off with Zephyr's satin airway wheel, which is kind of like a Scotch-Brite material. So I'll show you guys that a little bit later on. So one of the things I've definitely found is you have to be very smooth and very careful. The last thing you want to do, like I said, is create swirls or scratch marks in it. So I just go real smooth, and I kind of start by going like just horizontal and vertically, and then I finish it with just kind of more of a circular motion. And then whenever I use the satin airway, that'll kind of get everything in that vertical groove that the airway polishing wheels will continue in. I finished the area with the 220 grit, and now I'm going to step up to the 400 grit sandpaper, and this will probably be the last grit that I use with the orbital sander. I know some people, will go up to like 1,000 or 1,500, and I think there's kind of like mixed opinions there. From I've heard from some of the polishing companies is essentially you don't really need to sand above 5 or 600 because the actual like the cut wheels and compounds will do better in a way when the surface has a little bit of texture to it, and it's not quite as smooth, because you get it up to like 1500 and it's going to start to get really smooth, and so the cutting compounds won't actually work as well. So I'm still kind of testing stuff, and I think taking it with the satin wheel after this will get it up to about 6 to 700 grit equivalent is where I think that wheel lands. And so we'll see. But I'm going to hit it with a 400, and then we'll go to the satin wheel for the last part. The last thing for the sanding prep after we've done the 220 grit and the 400 grit is to hit it with the Zephyr satin airway. And this is kind of a unique wheel. It feels like a Scotch-Brite pad essentially, and it's the same kind of airway wheel where you got to use the safety flanges and the extension on your polisher. but it is specifically designed for prepping the metal and kind of like a light sanding, finishing, sanding sort of process. Like I said, I think this is probably somewhere in the 600 to 800 grit, maybe even a little bit higher than that. And that just kind of gets it to that final stage. The other thing that I like about using this versus like putting 1,000 grit on the palm sander is that this begins to essentially cut the metal vertically like we'll do when we're actually polishing. So it makes it to where it's getting rid of any swirl marks, and it's essentially cutting in the direction that we're wanting to go with while polishing. If you don't know kind of the reason behind that, I have a video that talks about clarity and cut direction, and that'll be at the end of the video as well as linked. So you can check that out, and that'll kind of explain why I'm adamant about kind of the cut direction. So I wasn't wearing a respirator with the sander because of the vacuum, but with this, I am going to be wearing a respirator just because it's going to be kicking off a bit more sanding particles. I got my long hair. Haven't been able to go get a haircut. Been too busy / COVID. So that's it for the sanding. The only thing I have to do prior to polishing is I'm probably going to hit the whole trailer with like a muriatic acid bath just to get all of the metal, because you can see there's quite a bit still on there. We're going to get all that off and just get it just clean completely, and then we can begin polishing. And you can see that it made a phenomenal difference. I'm going to get some close-in shots, but it really cleaned up the surface of the metal. Most of the corrosion is gone. Definitely, I mean, there's still a few scratches. You're just not going to get those out. These two little ones here, and there's just a slight one there. That one will probably even come out whenever we get to polishing. Obviously, deep scratches, you don't want to like sand those all the way down. You don't want to go that far into the metal. But we got most things out. I mean, obviously, again, there's still a few spots of where the corrosion and pitting just got too deep, and again, you don't want to sand down too far. You just got to be careful with it. So there's a link for the Zephyr satin wheel below. I think this is a great tool. You can use it without doing the sanding process if you just have some light corrosion or some spots where there's maybe like just, you know, a little bit around the rivet lines, or maybe some like crusty old sealant there. You can kind of use that to clean up some of those spots prior to polishing. I'm a big fan of this and all of Zephyr's products, so that stuff is linked below. It can definitely be daunting to go out on your own and start your own business, but we had two really cool things that happened right around the decision to do this, as well as within that first day, actually. So the first thing was the day that was my last day at the dealership, and essentially my first day doing this full time. Our chickens started laying. We got our first egg. I know it seems a little bit silly, but to us it was kind of like a sign and just a signal of the new beginnings. In fact, one of our friends, who's also a customer, texted us about that, saying, you know, it was a sign of new beginnings and provision, which is really cool. So that was just kind of a cool thing that happened, you know, on that first day. Now, with the other thing, I don't want to share too much detail because it's not certain yet, but we are in talks and negotiations on a really big multi-trailer project that would really it would be huge for us, and it would allow us to even, you know, be bringing people on full time. And so hopefully we will know something this week definitively on that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to our channel below. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and our website will be up soon. I also have another project that I am launching at the end of this month that is going to be really exciting, so expect to hear news on that. And next week, we're going to be doing a tasting of the eggs that we've gotten from our chickens that I talked about. They're starting to produce more and more, so that's really exciting. So look forward to that, and we're going to kind of give an update on that, as well as some other stuff. It's not going to be just about chickens, which, you know, I know you guys love them. So we'll give, you know, a little update on that, just as well as kind of a life update in our next video. So look forward to that, and we will see you then.